Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is Rayge, and we are back today to unpack the new rooms that are actually stated here for the Cosmic Crucible Season 8. We got a first sneak peek yesterday in the Envoy Marvel Strike Force tournament. So I do have some teams listed here based on that tournament, guys, and I'll be walking you through each of the rooms as well. I think the one notable thing that's going to be obviously exciting about this season is that there's a endless amount of theory crafting opportunity. I think they've done a really good job in terms of refining some of these rooms, and there wasn't really any kind of go-to team for any specific room because there was just a lot of different theories going on in terms of how these rooms can best benefit. So we're going to be walking through some of those strategies and taking a look at which sample teams to help prepare for the upcoming Season 8 here. That's going to be starting pretty soon. So, first and foremost, guys, I do want to point out here that obviously with each of these Cosmic Crucible updates, there's always a global rule that's going to be impacting all the rooms, and with this one is no different. It's called the Cabal of Evil, essentially combining both the Cabal and Masters of Evil team as one. They get the dual synergies for each other. As you can see, Cabal still getting the value that you've built up from the last season, but in addition to that, now they will count as Masters of Evil. So if you guys have used them before when combining with characters such as Kang, well, now not only are they going to double dip on that villain synergy being in Cosmic Crucible, but now they're also going to count as Masters of Evil for Cabal. So they're going to be getting the extra benefit from being classified as that. And this is going to be pretty evident, guys, in the offensive powerhouse that this team will now become, easily topping likely the #1 team in offensive opportunities here if you want to use them to take down any defenses. Now, let's start with Room 1 here, guys. So, Room 1 is called Field Medic. On defense and offense, all characters on turn, they're going to be clearing the vulnerable from themselves. In addition to that, once that's cleared, it also actually adds a heal of 20% of their max HP for each vulnerable effect that's removed this way. Characters with vulnerable during that time before it happens does gain a 25% resistance. Again, there wasn't really a go-to team for this one. This is kind of a pick your poison, if you will, in terms of what teams and options you have. But we did see both the Extreme X-Men and Mercs for Money being utilized quite a bit for this Room 1. It makes sense because it's a safe room, but as well with the vulnerables being cleared, you definitely do want to be mindful of teams that inflict a lot of this, because if there are, you're going to be actually giving those characters a lot of heals as well, assuming you don't take them down. But keep in mind, when you do apply the vulnerables, they're going to be gaining resistance. So all about having a speedy team. If you have characters that have trauma, it's going to prevent them likely from getting a heal, such as a heal block on them. So that's where Mercs for Money can shine in, obviously here. Extreme X-Men is just a strong, all-rounder good team. So if you guys aren't sure, those are the ones that we've seen a lot come up in during the tournament as well. So definitely going to be fun to test out for sure. Room 2, we got the room that's called Blood Transfusion. So on defense and offense, all characters, they're going to be gaining bleed actually on their turn. With the bleed, however, they're going to be gaining additional damage per bleed. And then on top of that, if you guys do have teams or characters applying the bleed, they're also going to be gaining defense up. So just something to be mindful of there in the mechanic. Obviously, characters like Robbie Reyes, part of the Secret Defenders team, does make sense. We've seen this team actually on defense quite a bit. Once again, Mercs for Money shining again. So, I mean, with them being a newer team, it makes sense that the developers do want to give some extra value here, because you're going to be building up a team that's going to be very, very prominent in this new Cosmic Crucible season. Another strong one is Infinity Watch, because if you just don't want to deal with the bleeds, well, they have the Safeguard and Immunity, so they won't be gaining that at least for a turn or two, and that way it can give you that extra offensive options when being utilized there. But this one's another good one to synergize with. You really do need to be thinking about which characters do give bleeds, and if so, they're going to be gaining that defense up as well. So just something to be mindful of there. We have Room 3 here being called Double Tap. This one's really, really fun. So on successful hit, if the target has exposed, it actually does perform a basic attack against that target. So on top of that, there's a second component here with characters having the exposure also receiving that 20% resistance. So it's kind of working very similar to what we saw with that vulnerable room. The only difference is that there's going to be an additional basic attack against that target. And keep in mind, guys, so I think this is going to be kind of the the room where folks are going to be plugging in how you want to be utilizing, characters like Nightcrawler, Val, and Super Scroll, because they're the only three right now that do apply that exposure in the game. So characters, the teams that we've seen that are pretty safe has been the Extreme X-Men team and Spire Society. And again, because it's not really a factor here if you're being mindful of that exposure rate. And the only thing is just to be, cautious of that basic attack that's going to be applied. So just, it could be a non-factor room, but I do think that it's finally nice that they're adding an exposed mechanic, which we haven't seen in the previous Cosmic Crucible season. So I think this one's going to be interesting to see how that's going to be shining once we see the different theory crafting strategies. But in the meantime, most folks were slotting in Extreme or Spider Society for this just to be safe and see what the opponents were doing for offensive options. Room 4, Under the Weather. So this one is actually very interesting as well. So on this one, specifically each turn, all the negatives are actually going to be cleared from that character specifically, but on turn end, they're also going to be gaining defense down, offense down, slow, and disruption. So keep in mind, although all the debuffs will be cleared, you want to be mindful of which characters and teams do have that advantage, and maybe perhaps gaining that immunity and safeguard. I personally think it is going to be the go-to room for Infinity Watch. Just because of the fact that they have that safeguard immunity, they're going to be safe from these negative effects at the very turn end. But on turn, they're going to be actually clearing all the negatives. So either way, it's not really going to matter in the grand scheme. You want some complete teams. We saw Spider Society getting used here quite a bit. We saw actually Extreme as well. Again, this is why it's so interesting with this season, is because it seems like there are multiple teams can be slotted into multiple rooms, and it is really going to be an efficiency battle. I think it's ultimately going to be it could be up to how strong your defense will be, and that could be the deciding factor of whether or not you win that Cosmic Crucible round. So definitely keep you guys up to date once this goes live, because it's it's interesting how each of the rooms do have their own little twist to it, and you do want to be mindful of which teams are best going to be utilized, while also being again cautious of which offensive options we do have on the deck here. Room 5 is I'll Be Back. Pretty simple mechanic, but I think actually we've seen some variations of this in the past. But more specifically, it is going to favor towards villain characters. So on spawn, villains essentially gain a revive once at 50% max health. So obviously having a team like Gamma is going to be very, very good here, because right away they're going to be able to take away one of those revives. Black Cat and being able to steal the revives is going to be really notable. But what we've seen on defense anyways has shined truly has been the Undying team. Some different mixtures here of Sinister 6, Superior 6. And then as well, because of that villain synergy, once again, I think Cabal, Masters of Evil, they're going to be getting a lot of value in this room. So if you want to use them for offense, this is going to be a very obvious one. But having said that, this one is one you might want to fortify with a very strong defense. So just something to be mindful of there. Villains do gain quite a bit from this room, so it is something going to be important to be mindful of going forward. And then finally, guys, the last room here, I think this is going to be the one that decides it for the majority of the rounds, because it is, in my opinion, the most interesting. Supercharged is the name of it. All characters, after using an ultimate ability, it does actually spread the positive effects to adjacent allies. So you really want to be mindful of which characters have which abilities that they can use. On top of that, the ultimates actually do cost 2 less energy. So powerful ultimate abilities that you're used to waiting for a turn or two, well, they're going to have access to that right away. I think the Quicksilver Darkhold is a very, very obvious combination, both on defense and offense. I think Sinister 6 value is going to be huge here. Hive Mind being able to get all their ultimates turn 1, especially Void Knight already usually getting the turn 1 against enemies. That's going to be really, really big here, guys. So exciting times. I think the one nice thing about this season is that I don't believe there's going to be a go-to team for every room. Although there might be some certain preferences, we're really going to have to see how Works for Money comes into play here, because they're going to be definitely an X factor. I think Out of Time is going to be a really strong defense here as well. And finally, we're still seeing really good value from both Extreme X-Men and Spire Society, as well as the Hive Mind team, all being the newer raid team. So it's just great that the newer teams are getting a lot of love, in addition to obviously Cabal plus the Masters of Evil changer. Do let me know what you think, guys, think in the comments below. As always, exciting to see these changes coming to the game. I'm pretty pumped for more content relating back to this. I'll catch you guys in the next one.